Hi, I'm Rosalie Gillis-Madden. I'm the vegetable specialist at Perennia.
And I'm Sonny Murray, also from Perennia Field Crop Specialist. Today we're at Greg Garrett's Elm Ridge Farms talking about cover crops. So now we're moving into our warm season grasses. Warm season grasses include your millets, Japanese millet, pearl millet, also sorghum-Sudangrass, and you can even include corn in there as well. Where we see a lot of problems with using your warm season grasses as a cover crop in Nova Scotia is people tend to plant them too early. They're out there in May when the weather hasn't warmed up yet. The crop comes up, turns purple and yellow, can't decide whether it likes our climate or not, and tends to go through most of the summer quite stunted. What a grower really should be doing is waiting until soils warm up in the middle of June at least, and then putting their seed in the ground. Warm season grasses tend to take a lot of fertility, so if you can get some manure on there or commercial fertilizer, you really need to have some nitrogen in the system to get this thing going, get it producing. So it grows up quite tall, and usually growers in this part of the world, they let it go to head and mow it off at that point. So really just getting one interval of growth out of it. If you read the literature, they tell you to let it come up to your waist, chop it off, and it'll regrow. And every time it comes up to waist height, get it mowed off. So if you're into that kind of system, I think it's really beneficial to get a little bit more fertility on as you mow, and to mow it at a high height as well. So leave some leaf there so that it can produce energy to create the growth. As you mow it off, what you'll see is these tillers down below will become active and regrow at that point as well, so it'll become much thicker as you mow.
Mowing also promotes root growth, and so a lot of your more stable organic matter in your soil is from root growth. So all of these roots are exuding exudates, and those exudates help feed the soil microbiota, and those help form aggregates. And so if you're really looking to build your organic matter in your soil, brassicas don't produce a lot of biomass. They break down really quickly. Brassicas are not going to build a lot of organic matter. Something like Japanese millet or pearl millet, sorghum-Sudangrass, for example, will add a lot of organic matter in their above ground biomass, but even more important is that below ground root biomass contributing to that long-term stable organic matter.
So it's important to know that as you move in the fall, soil temperature cools off, your air temperature cools off, you'll get much less growth. When you get into a hard frost, that'll zap these cool season grasses, and you won't get any more growth out of them at all. So it's important to know that.
Your pearl millets can also be an important tool in nematode suppression. So it is variety dependent, a little bit management dependent, but pearl millet can help control nematodes.
So the other warm season grass that we have in the plots today is sorghum-Sudangrass. Again, you want to make sure you plant this in the warm soils during the heat of the summer as it's warming up. Again, cutting it off when it gets waist high, adding fertility will help thicken the crop up and thicken the roots up as well. So on sorghum-Sudangrass, you can see the root structure is very different than a lot of the other species we looked at in the plots. It's a coarse root, but very branched, and that's key in getting some depth, picking up nutrients from down below, but also forming soil structure as well.
So this is sorghum-Sudangrass, which forms an excellent root mass. You can go down here. We have about 9 inches of growth in about a month and a half. All of these roots are contributing to organic matter. You can see here how root exudates have caused the soil to stick to the root, which is going to be contributing to your more long-term organic matter. Sorghum-Sudangrass is often comparable to your millets in terms of aggressive growth. In the Maritimes, we have a lot of success with sorghum-Sudangrass quite consistently, as long as your soil is warm enough. Pearl millet and Japanese millet, sometimes we don't have as good establishment. The difference is that you have your sorghum-Sudangrass behind us here is probably 4.5 feet tall. The pearl millet, which we saw earlier, is probably about 3 feet tall, but has a lot more tillers. Sorghum-Sudangrass is an excellent nematode suppressant. It is very variety dependent. A lot of the sorghum-Sudangrass varieties that we have around here are forage varieties, which means that they're very digestible, which also means that they break down in the soil a little bit quicker. For good nematode suppression, you would want to be targeting something that isn't necessarily a forage variety. They do have varieties of sorghum-Sudangrass that are specifically bred for nematode suppression. And so if you are looking to manage a nematode problem, it is worth paying attention to what variety and choosing specifically for nematode suppression.
So in this plot we have sorghum-Sudangrass. There's quite a bit of sorghum-Sudangrass grown in the Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia, because of its nematode suppressing properties. In this plot we never really got it thick enough to suppress weeds. After it was mowed, it attempted to regrow, but really didn't regrow either. And then, of course, as you get the first frost, totally killed that tropical plant, and the weeds have taken over since then. This plant loves nitrogen, so I think we've got to make sure that we feed it quite heavily. In the next plot over here, this was left blank through the season, just to give an indication of what the weed pressure was in this field. You can see that we have quite high weed pressure, and as we move into later fall, I think we're actually getting a second flush of weeds after our annuals have been mowed off. We're getting a lot of winter annuals and other things moving. Okay. So in this plot we have pearl millet. At the time of mowing, it was in a vegetative stage. It hadn't gotten to heading out yet. So probably about halfway through its growth cycle. It did an excellent job of suppressing weeds, as you can see from the plot. So it was mowed and it tried to regrow and spit out its head. But of course, as you can see, first sign of frost, this plant dies back because it's a tropical plant. But we're still left with quite a little residue here that would help with soil erosion over the winter, and looks like a pretty useful cover crop.